All right, what is up, y'all? So today we're going to talk about the squat, and we're going to add a variation, which is going to be the squat with dumbbells, so we can add a little bit of weight. Now, the squat is one of the most foundational, strength-based, functional skill movements that we have, okay? So, because think about it, we use the squat every day, whether we realize it or not, right? We're sitting down to the toilet, we're sitting into a chair, we're sitting into a car seat, and we might not be doing it the right way. If you look at a toddler has perfect squatting form, because they're just focused on efficiency of movement. And when they sit down into a squat, you'll notice their chest is up, their knees are out, and it's very comfortable for them. They can just sit there, indefinitely for the most part, right? Let's just talk about the basics here, and then we can try to add just a little bit of weight to it. So for a squat, what we're looking for is a wider stance. We'd say shoulder width stance, meaning if I put my thumbs here on my shoulders and I went straight down, they'd be right there, versus a closer stance, which is hip stance. As I'm doing this movement, my toes can point out slightly. I don't want to have big duck toes like this, right? So they can point out slightly, and as I sit into the squat, my knees should open up a little bit and track with my toes. Now, as I'm going through this movement, we want to make sure that we keep our feet nice and flat, and if you feel your tendency to roll up on your toes, make sure that you maybe focus on putting the weight back on your heels, all right? And then as I initiate the movement, I'm pushing my hips back, I'm opening my knees up, and my knees should track in line with my toes that are slightly pointing outward, okay? And then I'm fighting to keep my chest up. I can put my arms out as a counterbalance, and then I want to make sure that I break parallel to the best of my abilities. And then we're going to stand all the way up. Facing front, again, my feet are up under my shoulders, my toes are slightly pointing out. As I initiate this movement, I push my hips back, and then my knees are tracking out in line with my toes. And then I'm sitting into the squat, making sure my feet stay nice and flat. If you have a hard time getting down to that past parallel point because of mobility issues, then I would say just go as far as you feel comfortable while maintaining good posture. All right, so again, I'm pushing my hips back, I'm opening my knees, and I'm sitting, and then I go just as far as I feel comfortable. Now, it might help to have a bench or a chair to sit to if you're having mobility issues. So the stance is gonna be the same. And then I'm gonna initiate the movement by pushing my hips back, opening my knees, and then as I feel myself touch the seat, I can sit into it just a little bit, or I can just lightly touch my butt and then stand back up with it. Now, this is also good practice for getting up from the chair or getting up from the toilet. In fact, every time I get up from a seated position, even if I'm like sitting there working on my computer like this, I get my feet set, squat stance, toes slightly pointed out, keeping my chest up, and then I stand up properly. So that would be a good modification if you have mobility issues. But eventually we want to get to where we can do a really good air squat to full depth. Now when we're ready for it, because eventually we do want to add some weight and some resistance to it so that we can build some strength and some musculature, we can grab a couple of dumbbells. Now the first dumbbell variation is going to be just letting the dumbbells hang to your side. Now as I'm doing this, my stance is the same. I have a shoulder width stance. My toes are slightly pointing out. I'm keeping my feet nice and flat. And then I'm making sure that my shoulders are pinched back with this weight versus letting them run forward, okay? Shoulders pinched back. I'm gonna initiate the movement the same way. I'm gonna start with my hips, open my knees, and then I'm gonna squat down to as low as I can, breaking parallel, and then standing all the way up with it. So again, from a different angle, I got my feet up under my shoulders, my toes are slightly pointing out, my feet are nice and flat, dumbbells are to the side. Initiate the movement by pushing my hips back like I'm gonna sit down into a toilet seat. I'm gonna open my knees, and then I'm gonna squat down as low as I can, ideally breaking parallel, and then standing up. Now, a final variation is gonna be what we call the front squat with dumbbells, right? This is where your dumbbells are in what's known as a front rack position. So for this front squat, I'm taking my dumbbells, and then I'm bringing them up here with my elbows to the front, and the dumbbell heads resting on my shoulders, just like this right here. I want to maintain this position throughout the entire squat. And then I get set up in my squat stance, feet up under my shoulders, toes slightly pointing out, feet completely flat, initiating the movement by pushing my hips back, opening my knees, and then again, I'm fighting to keep my chest up with this weight, breaking parallel, and then standing all the way up. Now, if that's challenging for you, again, first, master the air squat. Once that feels really comfortable to you, then you can start adding some weight with some really light dumbbells, holding them to the side. Once you get really good at that, you can experiment with the front squat. Now for the strength-based skill, usually we're looking for sets of 5 to 10 reps, building up to a challenging weight and trying to increase that weight over time. But in the beginning, it's more important for you to focus on proper form with the air squat and mastering that before adding any weight to it.